The top stories tonight in Y News. Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated by a gunman during a campaign speech in Nara, Japan. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has tested positive for COVID-19 anew, according to Malacanang. A group of millers confirms a flour price increase next week, while community bakers owners fear their business will be closed. TikTok is facing multiple lawsuits from parents who say their children died of strangulation attempting the blackout challenge. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, July 9, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Harleen Delgado. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. First in the news. In Japan, public broadcaster NHK reported that former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe died after being assassinated while giving an election campaign speech. The shooting has sparked condemnation from political leaders across the world. Cherise Longbowen will give us the details live. Yes, Cherise.
Harleen, former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has died in hospital after being shot in the chest and the neck by an assailant earlier today during his campaign speech in Nara, Japan. NHK's reporter heard 2 gunshots at the scene at around 11:30 a.m. local time, to which the 67-year-old has collapsed to the ground, bleeding and was clutching his chest. Abe was immediately airlifted to Nara Medical University Hospital this afternoon and appeared to have no vital signs. Police have arrested a 41-year-old man suspect named Yamagami Tetsuya at the scene. NHK's report says that the suspect was not satisfied with Abe's leadership and that he intended to kill him. Officials added that the gun used by the suspect was seized and it appeared to be handmade. Meanwhile, Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General of NATO, the Western Military Alliance, said he was deeply saddened by the heinous killing of Shinzo Abe, a defender of democracy and my friend and colleague over many years. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for a day of national mourning in his country, saying he was shocked and saddened beyond words at the tragic demise of one of my dearest friends, Shinzo Abe. Former U.S. President Donald Trump, with whom Abe forged close ties, said via social media that the shooting was a tremendous blow to the wonderful people of Japan. Harleen?
Cherise, you said the assailant's weapon looks like a handmade gun. Are there any existing gun regulations there in Japan that limit the bringing of this kind of weapon?
Harleen, Japan has strict gun regulations and political violence is rare in this country. Political science professor Airo Hino from Waseda University expressed that a shooting is unprecedented. During campaigns, armed security agents accompany politicians, but they inevitably get close to the public when they deliver roadside speeches and shake hands with the public. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Cherise Longbowen, reporting live from Japan. Meanwhile, the Philippines has extended its condolences to the Japanese people and the family of longtime former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Abe, according to the Department of Foreign Affairs, plays a key role in strengthening Philippines-Japan relations and establishing a very deep friendship with our country. In other news, 2 people were killed and 2 others were injured when an elevator in Makati City that was being repaired collapsed. Leia Ilagan filed this report.
The Makati City Police are investigating after a burgundy corporate tower elevator along Hilpuyat Avenue in Makati City collapsed this morning. The incident happened while 5 employees of the DLC contractor were replacing the old elevator, according to the police. Manuel Linayao and Ray Miguel Gilera, both elevator installer, were identified as the 2 fatalities. Police Colonel Harold Depositar, Makati City Chief of Police, says they are checking if the contractor applied safety protocol.
Una-una, yung mga workers involved dito are 5 workers sa subcon ng general contractor, no? And yung apparently itong 5 na to, may kanya-kanyang trabaho. Yung isa controller hawak niya, mga mechanical yan. And then yung dalawa directly involved doon sa elevator na nalaglag. So sila po yung fatalities natin, ano? And yun pong dalawa na yun, supposedly working on the gradual pagbaba ng elevator.
Depositar said that according to their initial investigation, the elevator car from the 30th floor accidentally fell down, killing the 2 elevator installer.
Doon sa 6th floor, meron din 2 workers doon na sila po yung mahatak ng cables na binababa unti-unti. Somewhere along the line, yung kanilang supposedly yung cable that will hold yung elevator going down, kasi pinuputo nila yung main line, yun ang bumigay. That's why it crashed down.
The DLC contractor promised to pay all the victims' expenses and the hospital bills of the injured employees. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Employers say the increase in the country's unemployment rate is not yet alarming. This year, they hope to employ 1 million Filipinos. Ray Palayo explains why.
The Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, said that the increase in the unemployment rate in May is due to the end of the harvest season in the agri-sector and the graduation of students. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr., president of ECOP, said that even inflation and the weakness of the peso against the dollar don't have a large impact on the unemployment rate. The Philippine Statistics Authority reported that the unemployment rate in May is 6%, slightly up from 5.7% in April.
Walang problema yan. Ang makakabahala kung year to year bumababa. Na may last year compared now, yun ang may problema tayo. Pero since the pandemic, nag-relax tayo, tuloy-tuloy naman ang pagtaas naman ng employment rate. Bumababa din.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines said that the increase in unemployment could be due to the end of the campaign period and the additional individuals in the workforce who reach the age of 15. The economist believes that inflation and the dollar exchange rate have something to do with the unemployment.
Siyempre, nagre-react din yung ating mga negosyante, yung ating mga industriya. Nag-ano rin sila. Kumbaga, they need to pay more for prices, they need to pay more for interest rate. So, naapektahan tuloy yung ultimate paglikha ng trabaho. So, napipilitan din silang magtipid.
ECOP said there are more job opportunities and they hope to employ about 1 million Filipinos this year. The government and the private sector targeted the same figure last year. Ray Palayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A group of millers confirms a flour price increase next week, while community bakery owners fear closure of their business. Asha Kadapan Jr. will tell us why live. Yes, Asher?
Arlene, the war between Ukraine and Russia continued to significantly affect the prices of flour in the world market. Philippine Association of Flour Millers Incorporated, or PAFMI, explains that both countries are major exporters of wheat used in producing flour. While India's implementation of export ban of wheat and drought in United States and Canada add to the shortage of wheat supply. PAFMI Executive Director Rick Pinka explains these cause the demand to increase, hence the soaring prices. The group of millers says before the said war, prices of flour reached to 860 pesos per pack of 25 kilograms compared to the present costing about 1,000 pesos.
Sabi na kanina ng mga panadero, sinabihan na rin sila ng kanilang mga dealer that magtataas daw ang presyo by next week by another 20 pesos. Hanggat hindi natatapos yung gyera na yan sa Russia at Ukraine, magkakaroon tayo ng pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin.
A group of community bakery owners adds that another challenge they face is the weakening of peso to dollar exchange rate. Panaderong Filipino director Luis Chavez explains this is important for them as they import most of the ingredients they use for baking.
Yung dollar ito, napakalang epekto nito dahil karamihan sa mga raw materials na ginagamit natin sa paggawa ng tinapay ay imported, kagaya ng harina, kagaya ng asukal, ng mantika, ng yeast na pampaalsa ng tinapay. Ganon din yung petrolyo, yung paggalaw ng petrolyo.
Due to all these obstacles, bakery owners fear of ceasing their operation.
Hanggang sa ngayon, survival cost pa rin kami. Pero hindi namin kakayanin na lagi kaming survival cost. Hindi kami kumikita, hindi kami tumutubo. Karamihan sa mga kasamahan namin sa industriya, lalong-lalo na yung mga maliliit na manggagawa ng tinapay, ay nagsasara na. Hindi na nila kinakaya.
Harleen, sugar importers on the other hand are faced with supply shortage in August. Harleen?
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr. reporting live from Quezon City. Several agriculture industry leaders urged President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. to declare a nationwide state of calamity due to the country's food security problems. Janice Henta reports.
A state of calamity due to food security problems will allow President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. to intervene in the utilization of local government funds toward boosting food supply and temporizing prices. This, according to Agriculture and Food Incorporated President Danilo Fausto. Fausto explained that such a declaration would also be beneficial during the implementation of Mandanas-Garcia ruling.
But the bottom line is that the President, in order to mobilize resources, has to need to tap that resource that was given to the local government units. Hindi naman natin sinasabing lahat. A certain percent, a portion of that Mandanas-Garcia ruling, and then make sure that yung local government concerned, the money will be used also in that locality, in his own, for the President to declare a state of emergency or calamity for food sufficiency. And in that basis, perhaps they can be reviewed by the legal department of Malacanang and Office of the President, if it's possible, so that the President can encourage and direct the local government units to direct some of those funds for agricultural production. The agricultural sector has to be assisted within their area of responsibility.
Fausto said a portion of LGU funds can be used in various measures needed in their respective value chains to boost food production, including subsidy for machineries, subsidy for seedlings, fertilizers, stockpiling, and warehousing.
So we need to act now. So we have proposed that we securitize future allocation of different agencies so that we can immediately use them now. We need to mobilize additional resources so that those that are supposed to be given seeds, fertilizers, machineries should be given now, not tomorrow. So it have to be done, and the President will have to do it immediately.
The group has already presented their proposal to the President. PBBM's legal team says it will study the proposal. Janice Henta, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has issued an executive order abolishing the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, or PACC. Its former chairman, Greco Belgica, hopes that the new administration will continue to intensify the fight as he expects more corruption in the government in the future. Rosalie Cons will tell us why.
Greco Belgica admitted that he was surprised when he learned about President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s directive abolishing the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, or PACC. He was the commission's chairman under then-President Rodrigo Duterte. PACC was established in 2017. Belgica fears more corruption now that it has been abolished.
PACC ho ang kinatatakutan nun una eh. Ngayon, inalis mo ang PACC, wala nang katatakutan. So definitely, lalakas ulit yan. Unless meron kang paraan, I'm sure, sana meron silang idea kung paano nila palalakasin ang DESLA having that function or whatever office they want to create or transfer the powers or the mandate to investigate and file charges, palakasin nila.
However, he said he respects the president's decision, but he also hopes that the government will still intensify its fight against corruption during his term. This by empowering the Office of the Ombudsman as well as the Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal Affairs or DESLA, where the power and responsibilities of PACC have been transferred.
Post na ang panahon namin, may bago ng Pangulo, si President Marcos, may sarili siyang diskarte and he can really abolish it or continue it, depende sa kanya. Ang hope ko lang, ngayon in-abolish niya, ano man ang balak niya, siyang plano, kung ano man ang balak niya, basta palakasin niya ang kampanya laban sa korupsyon.
Meanwhile, Belhica also revealed he was offered to serve the government anew by the Marcos administration. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Two families in the United States have filed a lawsuit against TikTok, the social media app, for the deaths of two girls doing a blackout challenge. Miguel Moldez will tell us why.
In a complaint filed before a court in California, USA, the families claim their children died trying a blackout challenge circulating on the app. The challenge involves people purposely choking themselves until they lose consciousness. The victims were 9-year-old Arani Jailene Arroyo from Wisconsin and 8-year-old Lalani Erica Renee Walton from Texas. The families claim TikTok's algorithm promoted blackout challenge videos on the children's For You pages. This is where videos appear based on content users previously watched and interacted with. They claim TikTok is liable for their children's deaths. Despite the policy of limiting the app's users to those 13 years old and above, TikTok continues to market to those under 13 and does little to remove them from the platform. Defective design, failure to warn, and negligence are some of the charges TikTok faces. The families are seeking damages and other unspecified costs related to their children's deaths. Miguel Moldez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United States has charged 5 men, including 2 Homeland Security workers, in a Chinese spying scheme. Jane Robles will tell us why live. Yes, Jane?
Kath, on Thursday, U.S. prosecutors charged 2 men tied to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security or DHS with various crimes orchestrated on behalf of the Chinese government involving targeting and harassing Chinese dissidents in the U.S. Craig Miller, a DHS deportation officer in Minnesota for 15 years, and Derek Taylor, a retired DHS law enforcement agent now working as a private investigator in California, were the 2 men charged, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Assistant Attorney General for National Security Matthew G. Olson says 2 men were charged with obstruction of justice for allegedly destroying evidence after being approached by FBI agents and asked about the use of a restricted law enforcement database containing confidential information about U.S.-based Chinese dissidents. Olson added they will defend the rights of people in the U.S. to free speech and political expression. Meanwhile, VOA News in the U.S. reported the Chinese embassy spokesperson Liu Pengyu responded to their email for a comment that the embassy was not aware of the specific situation and that Beijing strongly opposes acts by the U.S. that unjustly malign and smear China. Cass?
Thank you, Jane Robles, for that live report. A heat wave is expected to hit some parts of the United Kingdom, with temperatures reaching 35 degrees Celsius by next week. Matthew Killick, Director of Crisis Response and Community Resilience at the British Red Cross, warned that warm weather can be very dangerous, especially to young children and the elderly. He added that although we are experiencing longer and more intense heat waves due to climate change, people aren't aware of the risks around hot weather. Meanwhile, the National Health Service in the UK have issued a health alert and have advised its citizens to prepare for the warm weather, such as covering windows exposed to direct sunlight, turn off central heating, turn off lights or any electrical appliances that are not in use, open windows if it is safe, and get the air flowing through the house. We'll share more global stories later, but for now, back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Kath. Back to the stories in the country. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has tested positive again for COVID-19. Nel Maribohok reports.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. would not be able to attend the event of the U.S. Embassy in Manila celebrating the country's independence. But the President would attend and deliver a message at the meeting of the Leagues of Governors and Mayors virtually. Malacanang announced today that President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has a slight fever after he tested positive for COVID-19 in antigen test. This is the second time Marcos has tested positive for COVID-19.
The President has tested positive in an antigen test for COVID-19. He has a slight fever, but he is otherwise okay. Those who have been in close contact with him are currently being informed by the presidential management staff to observe their symptoms as per the protocol.
The press secretary reported that the president's elder son, Ilocos Norte Representative Sandro Marcos, has been tested negative for COVID-19. While his wife Lisa and their sons Simon and Vincent are out of town, the chief executive has not been exposed to them. An antigen test, according to Department of Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, is already enough to determine if President Marcos is virus positive.
So we are just going to monitor the president, but of course the president would have that prerogative if his doctor would advise him to take his RT-PCR. But nonetheless, the antigen test is already enough to state that he is at that positive. He is positive for the disease and he has these mild symptoms.
Vergere also said that PBBM can participate in face-to-face activities after a 7-day isolation and after his symptoms have been resolved. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The rate of booster vaccination in the provinces has dropped dramatically, according to the Department of Health. The agency blames the complacency among Filipinos. JP Duñez will tell us why.
Out of the 70 million fully vaccinated Filipinos against COVID-19 today, more than 55 million are eligible for their booster dose. Yet only 15.2 million Filipinos return to vaccination centers to get at least their first booster shot. The Department of Health reported that there are still 40 million individuals who need to get boosted. The Health Department's data showed that booster vaccination in all regions of the country is less than 50% of the target rate, with only the National Capital Region reaching at least 43%. DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere explains that according to their survey, there are Filipinos becoming complacent.
There were people who were saying that hindi na nila kailangan kasi hindi naman daw kailangan sa trabaho. Hindi naman daw kailangan para makarating sila sa mga lugar dito sa Pilipinas, kaya hindi lang daw po sila magpapaturok ng booster shot. And that's also part of what we are doing right now on how we can be able to address this kind of issue so that we can improve on our booster coverage.
One of President Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s mandates in the recent meeting with health officials was to expand the vaccination program, especially to boost immunization. The Department of Health will extend house-to-house vaccination to senior citizens and bedridden individuals.
ilalapit po natin sa komunidad ang mga bakuna. Tayo po ay gagawa ng mga pagsusuyod dun po sa mga lugar na malalayo, dun po sa mga lugar na ang ating mga kababayan ay hindi talaga maka-access ng ating vaccination sites.
The DOH plan is to hold another national vaccination days in the coming months to increase the number of vaccinated individuals against COVID-19. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A working group of experts has proposed a traffic light approach to replace the COVID-19 alert level system in the country. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
A simpler approach in determining COVID-19 alert level systems is recommended by the Group Advisory Council of Experts, or ACE. According to Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion, the country can no longer afford restricting the mobility of the public and limiting the capacity of business establishments. He explains why the traffic light approach is better for economic recovery.
Alam na natin na hindi na kaya yung mga negosyante itong mga lockdowns, at ang mga lockdowns ay dahil sa mga alert levels. So, kailangan balance yan, and this is why itong suggestion ng mga health experts sa atin at ang business organization, sana i-shift natin eventually from alert levels to traffic lights, no? Green, yellow, and red.
The traffic light approach would transform the number system into color-coded system. The risk classification would change to red, yellow, and green under the traffic light approach, where red is high, yellow is medium, and green is low. The risk classification will also be based on data in average daily attack rate and healthcare utilization.
Maybe we can look into shifting from alert levels to basically the stoplight, no? Yung green, yellow, at red, no? At that might be easily understood.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health reported that they have not received a recommendation to change the alert level classification. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, on the other hand, said the agency is open to implementing a new system if approved by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
The alert level system has given us this direction for the longest time para po kung paano po tayo magkakaroon ng pag-iingat kapag tumataas ang kaso. Pero katulad po nga ng sabi natin, marami na rin pong hindi naman po angkop na para sa sitwasyon natin. Even the President said that also. So titignan po natin base sa direksyon ng ating Presidente at tayo po ay susunod kung ano man po ang maipag-utos sa atin.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
5 former Pasay cops were convicted of kidnapping in March 2019 by the Makati Regional Trial Court, while the Philippine National Police proves the country's justice system is working. Dante Almento reports why.
Makati Regional Trial Court Branch 148 Judge Andres Soriano sentenced 5 former Pasay police officers to reclusion perpetua or 40 years in imprisonment for kidnapping. They are Sajid Anwar Nasser, Rolando Frades, Rigor Octaviano, Anthony Fernandez, and John Mark Cruz. And on March 5, 2019 in Bautista Street, Makati City, they abducted certain George Revilla. The convicts also extracted 100,000 pesos in exchange for his release. But one of them, PO2 or Police Corporal Sajid Anwar Nasser, was apprehended by the PNP's Counterintelligence Task Force or CITF through an entrapment operation. The ex-cops are currently in jail and were dismissed from the service for administrative reasons. Meanwhile, NCRPO Director Police Major General Felipe Natividad said the convicted police officers will face the result of their actions. It even proves that our country's justice system is working, as cops who violated the law will be arrested, charged, and convicted. The Philippine National Police added that the conviction is proof that they are taking actions against rogue cops and they did not tolerate illegal actions within the organization. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
After his resignation speech, Prime Minister Boris Johnson cleared up assumptions regarding changes in policies. Marvin Delfin will give us the details live. Marvy?
Kath, following his resignation, Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced that he would not make any major changes in direction or any major fiscal decisions with policies. The search for a new prime minister has begun, which Mr. Johnson confirmed in his resignation speech.
And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week.
Kath, a pool of candidates will run for the premiership, while MPs will vote in a number of ballots determining the two leading candidates. From there, 200,000 members of the party will vote, deciding the prime minister. The leading candidates are as follows: former Exchequer Chancellor Rishi Sunak, Foreign Minister Liz Truss, former Health Secretary Sajid Javid, former Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt, Defense Secretary Ben Wallace, former Defense Secretary Penny Mordaunt, and Attorney General Suella Braverma. The new Prime Minister is expected to be elected by September this year, and until then, Prime Minister Boris Johnson will continue his premiership. Kath?
Thank you, Marvy Delfin, for that live report. Brittany Griner, a Women's National Basketball Association or WNBA star and Olympic gold medalist, has pled guilty in Russian court on drug charges. Joselito Liquido will tell us why live. Yes, Joselito?
Good evening, Kath. Brittany Griner was detained back in February after vape cartridges of cannabis oil, which is illegal in Russia, were allegedly found in her luggage at an airport near Moscow. Griner's trial began last week and was accused of possessing and smuggling drugs. She told the court that she would like to plead guilty, but has denied intention to break the law. Griner added that she would like to give her testimony later on and needs time to prepare. The charges, Kath carries a 10-year jail sentence if found to be guilty. One of Griner's lawyers, Maria Vragolobelina, stated that Griner has committed the crime out of carelessness while preparing to board a plane to Russia, and they are hoping for possibly a lenient sentencing. Griner has also appealed to U.S. President Joe Biden to secure her release. Meanwhile, Russia has denied that the player's detention is connected to the icy diplomatic relations with the U.S., but John Garamendi, a member of the U.S. Congress, warned last month that the war could aggravate the issue. Griner is one of the most successful players in the Women's Professional League in the U.S. She has won WNBA and EuroLeague titles as well as 2 Olympic golds. Kath?
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed a budget package which sets California to develop its own brand of insulin. Mavian Dog will give us the details live. Maeve?
Kath, the development and manufacturing of California's own low-cost biosimilar insulin products is designed to tackle the availability and affordability of the life-saving drug for millions of Americans with diabetes. A biosimilar product is defined by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration as highly similar from FDA's approved products without significant clinical differences, potentially making it a more affordable option.
The budget I just signed sets aside $100 million so that we can contract to make our own insulin at a cheaper price, close to at cost, and to make it available to all. $50 million will go towards the development of low-cost insulin products, and an additional $50 million will go towards a California-based insulin manufacturing facility that will provide new, high-paying jobs and a stronger supply chain for the drug.
Americans spend around $300 to $500 out of their pocket per month, making these costs a significant barrier for people who need insulin to manage their diabetes. A 2021 fact sheet from the American Diabetes Association shows that more than 3.2 million people in the U.S. were diagnosed with diabetes, and 884,000 were estimated to have it but are unaware. Diabetes is also leading the cause of death and other health issues in the U.S., including amputations, blindness, and heart disease. The Los Angeles Times also reported that California's generic drug label, Kyle RX, could kickstart the production of insulin within the next few years. Kath?
Thank you, Maven Dog, reporting live. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
Some Filipinos are still hopeful with the 10,000 peso cash aid that was one of the campaign promises of returning Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. The lawmaker earlier vowed that he will refile the 10,000 ayuda bill in the Senate, which aims to give one-time 10,000 peso cash assistance to every Filipino family to help them survive the pandemic.
Sa mga nagbabash doon sa 10,000 ayuda program, kung kaya ko lang silang bigyan ng tigsa 10,000, binigay ko na sa kanila. Di ba? Pero sa katotohanan, ito'y isang legislative proposal.
Some vendors in Quezon City say they have been waiting for the said aid, which would greatly help them amid the rising prices of commodities.
Sana po, makatanggap po kami kasi syempre katulad po sa amin mahirap. Syempre inaasahan po namin yung malaking bagay po talaga. Tsaka naantay nga po namin.
Tagal na namin inaantay ito, ma'am. Pinakakantay namin lahat. Hopeful namin makakuha namin yan kasi karapatan namin yan. Kailangan namin yan.
In February 2021, then Taguig Pateros Representative Cayetano filed House Bill 8597 or the Bangon Pamilyang Pilipino Assistance Program, also known as the 10K Ayuda Bill. It was consolidated with the proposed Bayanihan to arise as one act. However, it failed to be included in the final version of the measure. 3 months after, Cayetano, together with some allies, launched the privately funded 10,000 Pag-asa program, where selected family beneficiaries were granted with 10,000 pesos each. It was postponed in February this year to comply with the COMELEC ban. Cayetano also appealed to Taguig representatives to file its counterpart measure in the lower chamber. For incumbent Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Cayetano's proposal is novel and has good intentions. However, he believes they have to defer to the economic managers whether or not the 10,000 peso aid per family is feasible.
Pag sinabi nung economic managers ng gobyerno na hindi kaya, din doon ako kakampi sa kanila dahil talagang anong gawin natin kung hindi kaya, di ba? So maging practical tayo pagdating dyan. Pero kung tanungin natin yung rational behind that panukalang batas ni Senator Cayetano, napakaganda po niyan.
The senator also believes that middle class should also receive assistance amid higher costs of goods.
Kung kukunti ang pundo, doon tayo sa mga pinakamababa. Pero kung kaya pang i-cover ng pundo natin yung middle class, isama natin sila. Dahil sa totoo nga, they are the ones feeding our economy, yung middle class. Sila yung nagbabayad ng taxes, sila yung nagtatrabaho. Kung mapansin mo, yung talagang nasa pinakababa, yung iba dyan, hindi nagtatrabaho. Rational tayo when it comes to giving ayuda.
The Circular Explorer, a pioneering solar-powered recycling catamaran, is set to operate in the Philippines to assist in Manila Bay rehabilitation. Maribel Boral-Cabling has the story.
The Philippines was chosen as the first country to host the Circular Explorer, the first solar-powered recycling catamaran of its kind. The Circular Explorer, created by the Holcim Group in collaboration with the environmental organization One Earth, One Ocean, is designed to collect and recycle up to 4 tons of plastic waste from coastal areas. The Circular Explorer is officially launched in the country this Thursday at Manila Yacht Club, and it is set to operate in Manila Bay for 3 years to help the government's effort in Manila Bay rehabilitation. Apart from collecting and recycling plastic waste from the ocean, the vessel will also act as an educational center and scientific laboratory to further advance plastic pollution research.
There will be a lot of data that will be collected during these 3 years of operating in the Philippines, in Manila Bay, and this data will be shared with the University of Philippines Marine Institute and they will be used for future studies.
During the launch, USEC Annalisa Rebeltate also shared the Department of Environment and Natural Resources plans to further promote the country's circular economy.
We need to establish the enabling policies. That's why we have formulated action plans, because these enabling policies will provide also the necessary incentives so that we can encourage the private sector and even the government sector itself to promote circularity.
Senator Cynthia Villar, on the other hand, hoped that the Extended Producer Responsibility Bill will be enacted, as this will intensify the campaign for the circular economy.
Napasa na namin po yung Extended Producers Responsibility Bill na minamandate yung mga obliged companies to recycle their plastic waste. Oo. Nasa Office of the President po. We hope it will lapse into law kasi pag hindi naman vinito, it will lapse into law in 30 days. Napasa namin sa both houses of Congress.
A circular economy is a loop system that intends to reduce the use of raw materials from non-renewable energy and to eliminate waste production by recycling waste as raw materials to produce new products. Maribel Boral Cabling, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Our kasambahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International. And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of John, chapter 4, verse 34, it says, Jesus saith unto them, My meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work. And those are the reasons behind the news, July 8, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Harleen Delgado. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. We serve the people, we give glory to God.